Hey, Scott Jordan here for Jancast number 198. We're getting close to the 200 number for Thursday, September 18th, 2025. Before I get into the topic of today's show, I wanted to remind people, because we just got done booking our airline reservations for the ISSA show, which is in November. So if you haven't already booked, at least book your hotel, because if you want to stay at the Mandalay Bay, well, I don't think it's going to run out of rooms. That is the most convenient place to stay. And we noted from Philadelphia, there's not a whole lot of nonstop flights. So you might want to look into it if you haven't done it already. And we'll certainly let you know what our booth number is. We're finalizing what we're going to do plan-wise. We have a couple new things we're going to be showing that we're working on right now that are really spectacular and I think would make a lot of sense. And so, yeah, looking forward to planning over the next month or so and then getting ready to see people. It's a week earlier than it was last year, so not quite as close to Thanksgiving, but we're still kind of bundled in with the F1 race. So with that said, this week we're going to dig into how recent immigration crackdowns affecting the janitorial and commercial cleaning workforce. There's a lot of enforcement going on, and I don't want to pick a political fight on this at all. It's just this is going to impact business in general. So if you're not aware of it, certainly something that my co-hosts and my AI co-hosts are going to go into in great detail. And then again, for your building service contractors, customers, or if you're a building service contractor listening to this show, it gives you some detailed information on what's going on and what the ramifications are. So I'm going to let my AI co-hosts cover the news, but one thing they couldn't figure out how to handle, or I couldn't figure out how to get AI to say it correctly, is when they refer to ICE, which we call ICE, they call it I period C period E period. So they don't quite know how to say ICE like ice. So here's your recap from my AI co-hosts, and look forward to getting back in touch with you for the next Jancast, which is only one away from Jancast number 200. So thanks a lot for tuning in, and here's my co-hosts.
All right, so a few cleaning companies out in Colorado just got slammed with over $8 million in fines. Now, you might hear that and think, okay, a local news story, right? But it's actually a huge red flag, a signal of a much bigger shift in how workplace immigration is being enforced across the entire country. So let's break down what happened, because this single event could put thousands of other businesses on high alert. Okay, so here's our game plan. We're going to start with those record-breaking fines. Then we'll zoom in on the specific companies that got hit. After that, we'll look at how exactly they got caught. It's this thing called an I-9 audit. Then we'll pull back to see how this fits into a bigger national strategy. And finally, the big one. What does this mean for the future of workplace compliance? All right, so first up, those record-breaking fines. We're talking about a seriously staggering penalty here. Yep, we're talking over $8 million. That's the proposed fine that federal immigration authorities slapped on 3 janitorial companies. And just to put that number into perspective, this isn't just a big fine. It's the largest penalty of its kind since the new administration took office. That's a huge statement. So what was the big crime here? Well, the official charge was for employing at least 143 unauthorized workers. And according to the authorities, doing this creates a really unfair playing field. It basically gives these companies an illegal advantage over other businesses that are actually following the law. And listen to the language they used here. The special agent in charge said this, quote, undermines the integrity of our immigration system. Now, that's not just bureaucratic talk. Framing it that way, well, it turns it from a simple paperwork problem into a direct threat to the entire system. And when you frame it like that, it's a lot easier to justify an $8 million fine, right? Okay, so who exactly are these companies that got hit with these huge penalties? Let's take a closer look. So the fines were spread across 3 different companies, but wow, it was not an even split, not by a long shot. Just look at that top line. CCS Denver Inc. is on the hook for $6.2 million of the total fine. The other 2 are much smaller in comparison. It's pretty clear who the authorities saw as the main target here. Okay, but here's where the story takes a really weird turn. When reporters went to get a comment, what did they find? Well, CCS Denver, the big one, just refused to talk. Okay, maybe not surprising. But the other 2, PSC Commercial Cleaning, couldn't even be found. It's like they vanished. And Green Management Denver, they've been listed as delinquents since 2022. It almost feels like they're ghost companies. Which begs a massive question. If these businesses are basically phantoms, who exactly is going to pay these millions of dollars in fines? So you might be picturing SWAT teams and dramatic raids, right? But that's not how this went down. So how did they find all this? The answer is something a lot quieter, but way more powerful. Something called the I-9 audit. The entire thing, literally everything, hinges on this one document, the Form I-9. If you've ever gotten a job in the US, you've filled one of these out. It's been the law since 1986. Every single business has to complete one for every single person they hire, just to verify they're eligible to work here. It's supposed to be standard procedure. And this is how the audit works. Again, it's not a raid, it's a paper chase. Step 1, ICE picks a target. Step 2, they send a subpoena, which legally forces the company to hand over all their I-9 forms. And Step 3, agents just sit down and go through all that paperwork, looking for mistakes, fraud, you name it. It's quiet, it's clinical, and as we just saw, it can be absolutely devastating for a company. All right, and this is the really critical part. This whole thing in Colorado, it's not some random isolated event. No way. It's actually a blinking neon sign pointing to a much, much larger national enforcement strategy. And you can really see how we got here when you look at the timeline. So the law itself, the I-9 rule, has been on the books since '86. But things really started to heat up in 2019 when these audits hit an all-time high. Fast forward to 2024, and a top ICE official literally goes on the record promising a 400% increase in these kinds of operations. And then bam, just a little while later, we get these record-breaking fines in Colorado. You see, this isn't a coincidence. This is a promise being kept. And if you need any more proof, just listen to this quote from a former top immigration official. He said, "We're not just talking about arresting the aliens. We are also talking about employers who knowingly hire people who are unauthorized to work." I mean, it couldn't be clearer. The strategy is shifting. The bullseye is moving from the worker to the boss. So all of this brings us to the big "so what" question. What does this crackdown mean for the future of workplace compliance? What's next for the thousands and thousands of other businesses out there, especially in industries like commercial cleaning, construction, hospitality, sectors that have historically relied on immigrant labor? Really, it all comes back to that one number, 400%. That was the public promise, the stated goal for ramping up worksite operations. And if they follow through on that, well, then what happened in Colorado isn't some crazy one-off event. It's a warning shot. It's a preview of what could become the new normal for businesses all over the country. The takeaway here for any business owner is pretty stark. The price for not having your paperwork in order is skyrocketing. This is all designed to send a message. By hitting a few companies with massive fines, the goal is to scare everyone else into line, to create what they're calling a culture of compliance. Basically, they want every employer in America to be double and triple checking their I-9s. And that leaves us with one last really big question to think about. Because at the end of the day, this was never just about a form. It's about the real people who do the jobs that keep huge parts of our economy running. So as this enforcement crackdown gets more and more intense, you have to wonder, what happens to all those businesses, the commercial cleaning companies, the restaurants, the farms, that have for decades relied on immigrant labor, authorized or not, just to keep their doors open?